My dad slapped me at the airport for refusing to carry my sister's bags. Sister laughed. She can sit with the janitors where she belongs. Mom laughed. She's family. You're just a burden and always have been. Dad added, some people just don't know their place in this world. Uncle agreed, servants should act like servants. Aunt nodded, some children just never learn respect. They had no idea what I would do next. The sting of my father's hand across my cheek echoed through the bustling airport terminal like a gunshot. The sound seemed to silence everything around us for a moment before the world came rushing back in a wave of whispers and stares. I stood there, frozen, my hand instinctively moving to my burning cheek as I processed what had just happened. Pick up those bags, Emma, my father, Robert, hissed through gritted teeth, his voice low but filled with venom. You're embarrassing us. My sister Ashley's designer luggage sat at my feet like monuments to everything I wasn't allowed to have. 4 massive suitcases, each probably worth more than my entire wardrobe. She stood there with her arms crossed, perfectly manicured nails gleaming under the fluorescent lights, watching me with that familiar smirk that had haunted my childhood. She can sit with the janitors where she belongs, Ashley laughed, her voice carrying that particular brand of cruelty she'd perfected over the years. The sound was like nails on a chalkboard, and several passengers nearby turned to look at us with confused expressions. My mother, Patricia, threw her head back and laughed as if Ashley had just told the funniest joke in the world. She's family, you're just a burden and always have been. Her words hit me like physical blows, each one carefully crafted to cause maximum damage. This wasn't new behavior from my family, but the public nature of their humiliation felt like a new low. Some people just don't know their place in this world, my father added, straightening his expensive tie with the same hands he'd just used to strike me. His voice carried the authority of someone who'd never been challenged, never been told no. My uncle David, who had been silent up until this point, decided to pile on. Servants should act like servants. He nodded sagely as if he just imparted some great wisdom, his belly straining against his golf shirt. My Aunt Linda, never one to be left out of any family drama, nodded her perfectly styled head in agreement. Some children just never learn respect. Her voice dripped with false concern, the kind that made your skin crawl. I looked around at these people who were supposed to love me, supposed to protect me, and felt something inside me break. Not break in the way it had broken 1,000 times before during my childhood, when I'd cry myself to sleep wondering why I wasn't good enough. This was different. This was the sound of the last chain holding me to them snapping clean in half. The thing is, they had no idea who I really was anymore. They still saw me as little Emma, the unwanted burden, the family disappointment. They had no clue about the life I'd built for myself over the past 5 years since I'd left for college on a full scholarship. They didn't know about my successful tech startup, my 7-figure bank account, or the fact that I now employed over 50 people. But they were about to find out. I bent down slowly, deliberately, and picked up Ashley's bags. The smirks on their faces grew wider, satisfaction radiating from them like heat. They thought they'd won. They thought they'd put me back in my place. You know what? I said quietly, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. You're absolutely right. The confusion that flickered across their faces was almost comical. This wasn't the reaction they'd expected. I'm a servant, I continued, hefting the bags with ease thanks to the personal trainer I'd been working with for the past 2 years. I serve my employees by creating a company culture where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. I serve my community through the scholarships I fund for kids from broken homes. I serve myself by refusing to accept abuse from people who should have loved me unconditionally. Ashley's smirk faltered slightly. What are you talking about, Emma? Just carry the bags. I looked at each of them in turn, memorizing their faces, their expressions, the way they stood together in their little circle of superiority. I'm talking about the fact that this is the last time any of you will ever see me. Don't be dramatic, my mother scoffed, but there was something in her eyes now, a flicker of uncertainty. Dramatic? I laughed, and the sound surprised even me. It was bitter, but there was freedom in it. Patricia, you haven't seen dramatic yet. Using their first names instead of Mom and Dad was intentional, and I saw my father's jaw clench at the disrespect. Good. Let him be angry. Let them all be angry. You see, I continued, setting Ashley's bags down again with deliberate care, while you've all been content to live in your little bubble of inherited money and casual cruelty, I've been building something real. Something meaningful. Your little computer job? Ashley laughed. Please. Daddy's been supporting you this whole time anyway. The ignorance in her statement was breathtaking. Supporting me? Robert cut me off the day I left for MIT. I haven't taken a single penny from this family in over 5 years. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see the wheels turning in their heads, trying to process this information. That's impossible, my mother said slowly. You're living in that tiny apartment, driving that old car. You mean the apartment I bought in cash 2 years ago to use as a safe house when I visit this godforsaken city? And the car I restore as a hobby because unlike you people, I don't need to flash my wealth to feel important? I pulled out my phone, a simple black case hiding the latest model, and opened my banking app.
Yeah, I need a lot
The
of
number
sticks.
on the screen made Ashley gasp audibly. $12.7 million, I said
A lot
calmly.
of leather.
That's just in my checking account.
A lot
We
of
won't discuss
leather.
investments, real estate, or business assets. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire ready to snap. I could see my father's mind racing, probably trying to calculate how much money he'd lost by cutting me off. My mother's face had gone through several shades of pale, settling on a sickly green that matched her designer handbag. You want to know how I did it? I asked, enjoying the way they hung on my every word now. It started the day you threw me out, Robert. Remember that? I was 18, fresh out of high school, and you told me I had exactly 24 hours to get out of your house because I wasn't going to the college you picked for me. Emma, we were just trying to teach you responsibility, my mother said weakly. Responsibility?
Okay, let's get
I laughed.
glowing sex
You mean like the
and
responsibility I learned when I had to work 3 jobs to pay for my first semester at MIT?
stuff.
Or the responsibility I learned when I slept in my car for 2 weeks because I couldn't afford both tuition and rent? Ashley shifted uncomfortably. She'd never had to work a day in her life, skating through a mediocre state school on daddy's money while I was earning my way through one of the most prestigious universities in the world. I remember calling you that first Christmas, I continued, my voice steady despite the old pain threatening to surface. I wanted to tell you I'd made the dean's list. You know what Patricia said to me? We're busy with real family right now, Emma. Ashley's bringing her new boyfriend home. My mother's face crumpled slightly at the memory, but I wasn't done. And you, Robert. When I called to tell you I'd landed my first internship at Google, you said, that's nice, Emma. Try not to embarrass the family name. Then you hung up to take Ashley's call about needing more money for spring break. We didn't know, my father started, but I cut him off. You didn't know because you never asked. You never cared. Do you want to know what my life was really like while you were all living in your bubble of comfort? I didn't wait for an answer. Freshman year, I lived on ramen noodles and whatever free food I could find on campus. I wore the same 3 outfits on rotation because I couldn't afford new clothes. While Ashley was getting weekly manicures and shopping sprees, I was washing my 1 pair of jeans in the dorm sink and hoping they'd dry before my next class.
Okay, I can craft
Uncle David
that
looked like he wanted to say something, but the words seemed stuck in his throat.
Just
Sophomore year, I started my first company.
like this.
Nothing big, just a simple app that helps students manage their course schedules. I made $50,000 selling it to the university. You know what I did with that money? I bought my first real meal in
Let's
months.
get some wood
Then I
with us,
invested the
in case
rest.
we need some.
The airport around us continued to buzz with activity, but our little corner had
actually do
become a theater
something.
where the most important performance of my life was playing out.
That might
Junior
benefit
year,
us.
I created a cybersecurity protocol that caught the attention of 3 major tech companies. By the time I graduated, I had job offers from Apple, Microsoft, and Facebook. But I turned them all down because I had a better idea. What idea?
Okay,
Ashley
it's the
asked,
very
her
last
voice
stream
barely above a
today.
whisper.
I wonder if I can
I
actually
realized that most small to
manage to do
medium-sized
everything that I intend
businesses
to do
couldn't
today.
afford enterprise-level
Which
cybersecurity. So I
first-
created a scalable
first of
solution
all,
that could protect them
finishing
for a
this,
fraction of the cost.
and
That's how
then,
Technova Solutions was born. I pulled out my business card,
okay.
not the
I
simple
don't
white ones I usually carried, but the special black titanium ones I had made for important meetings. I handed it to my father,
entrance here.
watching his eyes widen as he read the title, Emma Rodriguez, founder and CEO.
Guess I have to
Rodriguez?
now go
My
to the
mother
next.
asked, confused. That's not your name.
At the actual
Actually,
entrance.
it is. I legally changed it 3 years ago. Rodriguez was my roommate's last name.
Disgusting.
Maria Rodriguez became the sister I never had,
Well,
the
we're
family
soon to
member
be
who
done,
actually
so-
supported me. When her grandmother died and left her alone in the world, I asked her if she wanted to be sisters for real.
Well,
We
I
had a
really
ceremony,
like this
made it
so
legal.
far.
Her family
So
became
simple,
mine.
but yet
The look of devastation on my mother's face was
know
almost
what's
satisfying.
going on.
Almost. Maria is now my chief technology officer, I continued.
Each thing
She's brilliant,
represents
kind,
one
and loyal.
thing.
Everything this family never was to me. She was my maid of honor when I married my husband last year. Married? Ashley gasped. You're married? 2 years now. Jonathan is a doctor, a surgeon, actually. He specializes in pediatric cardiac surgery. He saves children's lives for a living, which is probably why he was so horrified when I told him
Okay,
how my
that
own
was
family
actually
treated me. The irony wasn't lost on me.
Good amount.
My husband dedicated his life to helping children while my own family had spent years trying to destroy
Place
one.
Here?
He wanted to meet you all,
rest
you know,
will be
I said,
regular
watching their
frames,
faces
so-
carefully. He couldn't understand how a family could treat one of their own the
I
way you
hope that's
treated
not gonna
me.
make a difference
Jonathan's been more
visually.
like family to me in 3 years than any of you were in 25. Those were punishments, my mother said weakly. Children need discipline. Children need love, I shot back. They need support and encouragement and someone to believe in them. What I got was a family that treated me like an inconvenience from the day I was born. I looked at Uncle David, who was sweating profusely now despite the airport's air conditioning. David, do you remember what you said to me at Ashley's high
Okay.
school graduation? When I asked if you were proud that I'd been accepted to MIT, he opened his mouth but no sound came
I
out.
don't know.
You said, some people are just meant to be background players, Emma. Not everyone can be the star.
Might not.
Then you walked away to congratulate Ashley on barely graduating with a 2.3 GPA. The public nature of this confrontation was clearly making them uncomfortable, but I was past caring about their comfort. They never cared about mine. And Linda, I turned to my aunt, who had been unusually quiet. Sweet Linda, who used to tell everyone at family gatherings that I was challenged because I preferred reading to gossiping. You convinced half the family that I had some kind of learning disability because I didn't fit your narrow definition of normal. Emma, I never. You did. You absolutely did. And you know what the really sick part is? I started to believe you. I actually thought there was something wrong with me for the longest time. I pulled out my phone again and showed them another screen. This one displayed my academic achievements: MIT graduate, summa cum laude, valedictorian, recipient of multiple academic awards and honors. Turns out there was nothing wrong with my brain. I was just surrounded by people who needed me to be small so they could feel big. The weight of years of suppressed anger and hurt was finally finding its voice, and I wasn't about to stop now. Do you want to know about my wedding day? I asked, not waiting for an answer. It was beautiful. Small ceremony, just close friends and Maria's family. People who actually love and support me. Jonathan's parents flew in from Ireland. They've been more like parents to me in 3 years than any of you were in 23. My mother was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. I wore Maria's grandmother's dress. Something old. Jonathan's mother gave me her pearl earrings. Something borrowed. My something new was a necklace Jonathan designed himself. It has a small charm for every achievement I'd accomplished without my biological family support. What was something blue? Ashley asked quietly. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. My something blue was a small piece of paper I kept in my bouquet. It was the last text message I ever sent to this family, asking if anyone would come to my wedding. Robert replied with, "We are busy that weekend." Patricia didn't respond at all. Ashley sent back a laughing emoji. David said it sounded awkward. And Linda asked if I was sure I was old enough to get married. The silence that followed was deafening. Around us, normal families were hugging goodbye. Children were laughing. People were living their lives while mine imploded in slow motion. So I deleted all your numbers that day, I continued. I blocked you on social media, removed you from my emergency contacts, and legally changed my beneficiaries to make sure none of you would ever see a penny of what I built. Emma, please, my father said, his voice cracking. We can fix this. Families fight sometimes, but we always work it out. Families fight, I agreed. But they also love. They support each other. They celebrate each other's successes. They show up when it matters. You people have never done any of those things for me. I gestured around the airport terminal. Look at where we are right now. You asked me to carry Ashley's bags like I'm some kind of servant. Then when I said no, you slapped me. In public. And instead of being horrified by that behavior, the rest of you piled on. You were just being exactly who you've always been. I interrupted my mother. The only difference is that this time, I have the power to do something about it. The revelation of my success had shifted the power dynamic completely, and I could see them all calculating, trying to figure out how to salvage this situation. But it was too late for that. It had been too late for a very long time. Here's what's going to happen next, I said, my voice taking on the authoritative tone I used in boardroom meetings. I'm going to get on my plane and fly back to my real life. I'm going to hug my husband, have dinner with Maria and her kids, and continue building the empire I started with nothing but determination and spite. And us? Robert asked, though he clearly didn't want to hear the answer. You're going to learn what it feels like to be powerless, I said simply. You're going to understand what it's like when the people who control your future don't care about your well-being. Uncle David's face had gone pale. That's not possible. You're just a kid. I'm 25 years old, David. I graduated MIT with a double major in computer science and business administration. I started my company, Technova Solutions, 4 years ago during my senior year. We now handle cybersecurity for Fortune 500 companies. I was featured on the cover of Forbes last month as one of their 30 under 30 entrepreneurs to watch. I pulled up the Forbes article on my phone and showed them the cover. There I was, professionally photographed in a sleek business suit, standing in front of my San Francisco office building. The headline read, Emma Rodriguez, from homeless to millionaire by 25. Homeless? My mother whispered, staring at the screen. Oh yes, I said, my voice dripping with satisfaction. I was homeless for 3 months during my sophomore year. Not because I couldn't afford tuition, I had scholarships for that. But because your beloved daughter Ashley needed extra money for her sorority fees, and Robert decided my housing allowance should go to her instead. Ashley's face went white. I didn't know. Of course you didn't know. You never asked where the money came from. You just took it and spent it on designer clothes and parties while I slept in my car and showered at the campus gym. I swiped to another photo in the article, one of me speaking at a tech conference in front of an audience of thousands. This was taken at the Global Innovation Summit last year. I was the keynote speaker, the youngest in the event's history. I spoke about resilience, about building something from nothing, about turning trauma into triumph. My father was staring at the phone like it might bite him. Why didn't you tell us about any of this? Tell you? I laughed, the sound echoing off the airport walls. Robert, I tried to tell you. I called when I got my first major contract. You said you were too busy watching Ashley's college volleyball game to talk. I texted about the Forbes article. You responded with K. I sent you an invitation to my company's IPO announcement. You threw it away without reading it. We thought, Linda started, but I cut her off. You thought what? That I was just some failure who would always need your help? That I was too stupid or too broken to ever amount to anything? I swiped to another photo. This one showed me receiving an award from MIT's Alumni Association. This is the Distinguished Young Alumni Award. They gave it to me for founding a company that's created over 500 jobs in the tech sector and revolutionized cybersecurity for small businesses. Patricia was crying harder now, her perfect makeup completely ruined. Emma, honey, we're proud of you. We always knew you were special. Liar. The word came out flat and cold. You want to know what you said to me the last time we spoke? It was Christmas, 2 years ago. I called to wish everyone happy holidays, and you said, oh Emma, we forgot you might call. We're opening presents with real family right now. Maybe you could call back later when we're done with important things. The memory hit all of them like a physical blow. I could see recognition in their eyes, they remembered. I hung up and cried for an hour, I continued. Not because I was surprised, but because I was still naive enough to hope that maybe, just maybe, you'd changed. That maybe my success would finally make me worthy of your love. I pulled up another screen on my phone, this one showing my company's stock price. Technova went public 18 months ago. Our stock opened at $42 a share. It's currently trading at $137. My personal stake is worth approximately $63 million. David actually stumbled backward at the number. But you know what the best part is? I continued. I didn't just build a successful company. I built a company culture that's the exact opposite of how this family operates. We have a zero-tolerance policy for bullying. We promote based on merit, not favoritism. We support our employees' personal growth instead of tearing them down. I showed them another photo from the article, this one of my entire team at our annual company retreat. These people are my real family now. Maria, my CTO, who held me while I cried after every phone call with you people. James, my CFO, who helped me navigate the financial world when I had no one else to turn to. Sarah, my head of marketing, who taught me that I deserve to be treated with respect. Ashley was staring at the photo with something that might have been envy. They look happy. They are happy. Because happiness is what happens when you surround yourself with people who build you up instead of tear you down. I swiped to one more photo, this one from my wedding day. Jonathan and I were dancing, both of us laughing at something he'd whispered in my ear. I looked radiant, genuinely joyful in a way none of them had ever seen me. This is what I look like when I'm loved properly, I said, watching their faces as they studied the image. This is what I look like when I'm with people who see my worth. He's handsome, Linda said quietly, as if that was somehow relevant. He's kind, I corrected. He's brilliant and compassionate, and he's never once made me feel like I wasn't good enough. When I told him about my family, he couldn't understand how anyone could treat a child the way you treated me. I put my phone away and looked at each of them in turn. Do you want to know what my therapist says about you? I asked. She says that some families are so toxic, so fundamentally broken, that the only way to heal is to cut them out completely. She calls it necessary amputation, removing the diseased part so the healthy part can survive. You've been in therapy? My mother asked. 5 years of intensive therapy to undo the damage you people did to my psyche. It cost me nearly $40,000, but it was worth every penny to learn that your treatment of me was never about my worth. It was about your need to have someone to look down on. The weight of this revelation settled over them like a heavy fog. I could see them processing, trying to reconcile the successful woman standing before them with a broken little girl they'd created. Emma, my father said, his voice hoarse. If we could go back. But we can't go back, I interrupted. That's the thing about time, Robert. It only moves in one direction. And the direction it's moved has taken me far away from all of you. I checked my watch, a Rolex Submariner that cost more than most people's cars. My plane boards in 30 minutes, I announced. And this conversation is over. I watched as a color drained from Ashley's face. She'd always been the family's golden child, the one who was supposed to marry well and reflect glory on the family name. Finding out that her despised younger sister was worth more than their father had ever been was clearly a shock to her system.
potato
Last year
war,
alone, my company
but
generated $47 million
really,
in revenue.
like, got
I
to know
continued,
him because
enjoying the
back
way
then
their
I
mouths
just
hung
didn't
open.
really look
I
at
employ 53
who
people,
was
all of
doing
whom I
that,
treat with the respect and
but,
dignity that I was never shown in this family. But
discovered
here's what
him
really happened over the
because
past
of
6
the
months, I said, my voice taking on a sharper edge.
$100,000
I hired a
duel
team
that
of
he
private
had with
investigators and
Dream.
forensic accountants. Very expensive, very
And
thorough people who
that's
specialize in finding
how I
information
got to
that
know
others
his,
want to keep hidden.
name. I
If
watched
that's
it
true,
live.
my father said, his
That
voice
was
shaking
epic.
now, then why didn't you ever tell us?
And, not
I stared
only
at him for a
that,
long moment, letting the question hang in the
but
air.
it was
When would I have told you,
later
Robert?
on,
During the family
this
dinners I was
video
never
popped up,
invited to?
like,
During the holidays when you made it clear I wasn't welcome? Or maybe during one of the phone calls you never returned? The truth was settling over them like a heavy blanket. I could see them mentally calculating, trying to figure out what this meant for them. You know what the really beautiful part is? I said, pulling my phone out again. I've been documenting everything. Every cruel comment, every slight, every moment of abuse. I have security cameras in every room of my apartment, including the guest room where you stayed last Christmas. Robert, when you told Patricia you wished you'd never had me. My mother's face went white. You recorded us? It's my property. Perfectly legal. And last month, I decided to start a documentary project about family abuse and its long-term effects. I've already got a production company interested. This was a lie, but they didn't know that. The fear in their eyes was worth it. Emma, sweetheart, my mother said, her voice suddenly sweet in that fake way that made my skin crawl. You're being dramatic. We were just joking around. You know we love you. Love? I laughed again. That same bitter sound. Patricia, you told me yesterday that you regretted having me. You said I was a mistake that ruined your figure and your social life. David, you told your golf buddies that I was the family embarrassment. Linda, you've been telling people for years that I'm probably not even Robert's biological daughter. Aunt Linda's gasp was audible. She thought those conversations were private. The thing about being invisible in your own family, I continued, is that people forget you're there. They say things they probably shouldn't say. They do things they probably shouldn't do. I turned to Ashley, who was standing there like a statue, probably trying to figure out how to spin this situation to her advantage. Ashley, remember when you threw my laptop down the stairs because I wouldn't do your homework for you? That laptop contained the prototype for my first security software. It took me 3 months to reconstruct the code. That was years ago, she whispered. You're right. It was. Just like it was years ago when you told everyone at school that I was adopted because no one could love me enough to actually be my real parent. Or when you convinced your friends to put that video online of me crying after you'd locked me in the basement for 6 hours. The airport around us had become our theater, and I could see people watching with a mixture of fascination and horror. This family drama was unfolding in real time, and they couldn't look away. Do you want to know what I've been doing for the past 6 months? I asked, my voice carrying clearly in the terminal. I've been having those investigators look into every aspect of your lives. And I've been strategically positioning myself to have influence over your futures. I paused for effect, watching the fear creep into their eyes. Robert, remember that client you've been trying to land for 2 years? Hartwell Industries? Their CEO is Jonathan's golf partner. One word from my husband about your character, and that deal disappears forever. My father's face went ashen. That contract was worth millions to his firm. David, your construction company has been bidding on that new hospital project downtown. The hospital board includes 3 of my major clients. Clients who trust my judgment completely. Uncle David was visibly sweating now. Patricia, that charity board position you're so proud of? The one that makes you feel important? The charity's largest donor is one of my business partners. And Linda, your husband's medical practice. Well, let's just say professional reputations can be very fragile things. The horror on their faces was beautiful. They were finally understanding that the powerless little girl they tormented for years was now the one holding all the cards. But here's my favorite part, I said, savoring each word. Ashley, your fiancé's family business? They've been struggling financially for months. I offered to help them with a very generous loan. The paperwork was signed yesterday. Ashley's knees actually buckled, and Uncle David had to catch her arm to keep her from falling. You can't do this, my father said, his voice desperate now. We're family. Family? I repeated the word like it tasted bad. Robert, you literally just slapped me in public and called me a servant. Patricia, you just told me I was a burden. Ashley called me a janitor. David said I should act like a servant. Linda said I don't know respect. I looked around at all of them, these people who had shaped my childhood with their cruelty and neglect. But you know what? You're right about one thing. I am a servant. I serve justice. And justice has been a long time coming for this family. I pulled out my phone again and made a call. Hello, Marcus? Yes, it's Emma. Go ahead and execute Plan B, all of it. Yes, I'm sure. What's Plan B? Ashley asked, her
Apparently,
voice
normal
barely a
people also,
whisper.
they're not reacting
Plan B is
the
what
way
happens when my
I do,
biological family proves they
when
haven't
there's,
changed, I
like,
explained calmly. As of right now, Robert,
baby
those
zombie
investigators I
approaching me.
hired are turning over their findings to the
But
State Bar
in my eyes,
Association.
these people
Seems
are
like some of
normal.
your billing practices over the years
Those are
haven't been entirely
complete
ethical.
psychopaths.
David, that hospital
I'm
project?
completely convinced
Consider
by
it gone. The board just received some very interesting information about safety violations at your previous job sites. Uncle David was sweating now, and it wasn't from the airport's warm air. Patricia, your charity board friends just received copies of some very interesting financial documents. Turns out skimming money for personal expenses is frowned upon,
Good
even
enough?
small amounts over
Okay,
several
a
years.
little bit of
And
a-
Linda, well, those photos your investigators found of your husband. Let's just say his medical colleagues will find them very educational.
Okay.
Aunt Linda actually whimpered.
Now,
But Ashley,
we
I
need
said,
water.
turning to my
Oh,
sister
we
with a
already
smile
got
that felt
water.
like a knife,
Okay.
yours is
This
my
kind of
masterpiece.
supposed to
Your
simulate,
fiancé's
like,
family now owes me a considerable amount of money.
itself. You
Money that
know
comes
what
with
I mean.
certain
No.
conditions. And speaking of your fiancé, he received a very comprehensive file this morning about your real character, including
Very
recordings of some
nice.
very unflattering conversations you've had about his family. You can't do this to us, my mother pleaded. We raised you. We fed you, clothed you, gave you a home.
Okay, then, like,
You gave me a roof over my head and food to eat, I corrected. But you never gave me a home. You never gave me love. You never gave me the basic respect that every child deserves.
fandom has a
I picked up my
baby
own
zombie
single
in their-
carry-on bag,
on their
a
end.
designer piece that probably
Oh
cost
my
more than their entire
goodness,
luggage
it's all
collection.
signs.
But here's the thing about
Or
revenge, I
a
said,
golden
hoisting the strap
teapot.
over my shoulder. It's not really about destroying you.
Wait,
It's
what?
about making sure
What's
you
that?
understand the consequences of your actions. So what do you want? Robert asked, his lawyer instincts finally kicking in. Money? An apology? What will make this stop?
Okay.
I considered his question for a
Submit,
moment,
have
looking at
magnify
each of their
the mood
desperate
and
faces.
really look at it,
I
because
want you to remember this
to this
moment,
day,
I said
know that
finally.
it's kind of
I want
some
you to
kind of
remember that the daughter you
plot
treated
from-
like garbage,
what?
the
Dark
sister you
Souls,
called
you
a
said?
janitor, the niece you said should act like a servant,
Yeah, but
is now
I
the person who controls your
still
futures.
don't really-
I started walking toward my gate,
Like-
then turned back for one final shot.
No.
Oh,
How
and
does
Ashley?
it look when it's
Your
big?
fiancé
Okay,
called
that's
off the
not
engagement this
really what I
morning.
want to talk about.
Seems you
Hey,
didn't
how you
appreciate
doing?
learning about your true
I
nature.
am,
The sound Ashley made was somewhere between a scream and a sob.
doing one last
It should have
thing
made me
today.
feel guilty, but it didn't. It felt
For
like justice.
a while.
Emma, wait.
And
My father
I'm
called
glad that
after
you
me.
guys joined me.
Please, we can work this out. We can be
Hey,
better.
outside, so-
We can
Oh,
change.
lag spike.
I stopped walking but didn't turn around.
Occasionally
Robert,
there's
I gave you
just
23 years to be better.
huge lag
I'm not
spikes.
giving you 24.
Only
As I walked away from them for the last time,
When
I
I'm
heard Ashley
streaming.
screaming, my mother crying,
Then,
and my father
how is
trying to
that
calm
possible?
everyone
I'm
down.
technically streaming
The other passengers
on
were
my
staring,
second
phones
PC,
out, probably
not on
posting this
this
entire
PC.
meltdown on social media. 3 hours
Well, at
later,
least the
as my
core
first-class seat
coding
reclined
work,
on the plane
that
taking
is
me back
done.
to my real life, I got a text from an unknown number.
Okay, this
It was a
looks
photo of my family still in the
completely
airport,
horrible
Ashley
and
sitting on the floor
utterly
crying while the
disgusting.
others stood around her looking lost and broken.
But
The
I'm
message
fine with
read,
it.
saw your family drama. You're my hero.
I could have used
Random
some
passenger.
more, now that
I
think
smiled
about
and
it.
put my phone away. For the first time in my life, I felt free. Free from their
Is this guy
expectations,
Yoshi?
their cruelty,
Yes,
their
he's
need to make me
Yoshi.
feel small so they could feel
And
big.
he's also gonna
The
be in
flight
the very
attendant
first
offered me
episode.
champagne, and I accepted it with a
Which-
genuine smile. I was
Well,
celebrating more than just a successful business trip. I was celebrating
You're
the death of
gonna
the
get an
powerless
update
little
on that
girl I
soon.
used to be and the birth of the woman who would never again let anyone treat her like she was less than she was
Someone who
worth.
showed up.
As the plane climbed
yes.
into the clouds,
The one
I
and
thought about
only
the employees
outsides.
I'd be seeing tomorrow,
You and
the
Mitch.
company I'd built from nothing, the life I'd created despite
way,
everything my family had done to break me.
I am
They'd called me a servant, a
placing this
janitor,
back
a burden.
and-
They'd said I didn't know my place in the
Do you
world.
actually know
They
what
were wrong. I knew
I'm
exactly
doing
where I
today?
belonged. I belonged anywhere I wanted to be, doing anything I wanted to do, with people who valued and respected
I
me.
deserve for
And they would never be
episode
those
two,
people.
right?
The last thing I did
Okay,
before the
great,
plane
nice.
reached cruising altitude was
playing
delete their
hide and
phone
seek.
numbers from my contacts.
Nice.
I renamed the group chat we'd never used
There's
from family to
question
former
mark.
DNA donors and then
Nothing,
left it entirely. By the time I
behind
landed
it.
in San Francisco, there were 17 missed
from
calls and 43
Dragos,
text
so,
messages from various family members.
Well,
I deleted
what's
them
up?
all without reading them.
You deserve an episode
Some
two,
bridges
you
are
say?
meant to be
Oh,
burned.
hmm.
And sometimes, when you're standing on the
Well,
other
we'll
side
see.
watching the flames, you
I mean,
realize
you're
that the
at least
bridge
at
was
the
never really
footage
taking
of
you anywhere you wanted to go
when I'm,
anyway.
building this
3 months
town,
later,
so-
Robert's law practice lost its biggest clients due to ethics
I-
violations.
as long as I
David's
manage
construction
to
company was
survive for long
blacklisted from
enough,
major projects after the safety
we'll get
issues
there.
came to light. Patricia was quietly
Actually.
removed from her charity board position.
The
Linda's
naughty
marriage
kids.
ended in a messy divorce.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ashley
of course,
eventually
that-
found someone
yeah,
else,
right.
but had to sign an
Of course you
ironclad
get a
prenup that
thing.
left her with almost nothing.
Okay, then
She was
you
trapped in the
actually
same
get
kind
to
of
be
powerless
featured
position
in
she'd
at
spent
least
years
2
putting me in.
episodes, but
None
again,
of them have my
All Sides
current
is also 2
address.
episodes so
None
far
of them have
that
my
are
new
already
phone number.
edited.
None of them
It's
know where I work now or who I've become. And that's exactly how I want it. Because sometimes,
way-
the best revenge
Oh.
isn't destroying your
There's
enemies.
one thing here.
Sometimes, the best revenge is becoming so successful, so happy, so completely better than they ever imagined you could be, that their opinions of you become irrelevant. They thought they knew my place in this world. They were right. My place is wherever I choose to put myself,
something.
surrounded by people who see my worth and celebrate my success. And their place? Well, that's not my problem anymore. The little girl who used to cry herself to sleep wondering why she wasn't good enough is gone. In her place stands a woman who knows exactly how good she is,
By the
and who will
way,
never again let
all
anyone
sides
make her
if you
feel
don't know,
otherwise. That's the
Drago's
best
here.
revenge of all.